So a huge good afternoon to everyone joining us for this inaugural event with Positive Choices. My name's Neil Hudson-Basing. I'm actually the Corporate Events Manager from London South Bank University, and I'm on loan to the team today just to help support this event. So I'll be in the background throughout the event. If you have any questions, please pop them to me in the chat box. Just to kick us off, I'd just like to read a webinar statement based around respect and dignity, and that's just so that we've got some guidelines to run by today. So everyone speaking or attending or one of these events, whether in person or virtually, should be treated with respect, dignity and courtesy. Positive Choices operates an environment built on equality, inclusion and acceptance. We value contributions, feedback and comments and wish to create a space for sharing, learning, celebrating and bringing communities together. Positive Choices does not tolerate any form of bullying, abuse, harassment or discrimination. Inappropriate behaviour, including behaviour that potentially impacts or contradicts Positive Choices' reputation and values, will be treated seriously and acted upon. Anyone exhibiting any of this behaviour will also be removed from the webinar. We want our events to be an enjoyable and warm experience for all. Thank you for adhering to these guidelines. So now we've got that out of the way, I'm just going to take you through some of the house rules. You'll see 3 buttons below you as our audience members, and we'd like to encourage you to make use of those. So the first is the chat box, and it's great to see so many people using that already. With this virtual wall that we're all facing at the moment, we're really keen to break that down and encourage kind of engagement and networking. So please do continue to use the chat box to share your thoughts, your experiences and your comments throughout the event. Our panel will be using it to share their email addresses as well. It's just a great way to kind of like it's just a great way to kind of like share your thoughts. The next button along is the Q&A box. Please do distinguish between that and the chat box and pop any questions you have in there. And we do have some time set aside at the end for Q&As. The next button along is the raise your hand function. We won't be using that at this event just because we're trying to pack quite a lot in, but it may be used for future events. When you do raise your hand, we go over to you, we can hear you, but we can't see you. But as I say, we won't be using that for this event. That's all from me. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be in the background if you have any further questions, and I'd like to hand over to Helen.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted that we're here. I can't tell you how gutted I was in April last year when we had to cancel Positive Choices in Belfast, and I've still got my Belfast t-shirt which I'll wear at some stage over the next few months together. But this came about, today came about as a way to start to bring us all together in preparation for Positive Choices this year. Now, before Boris made his last announcement, I would be the first to say, well, we will do Positive Choices in May this year. I'm still edging my bets that May will be the date, but I have booked 2 dates just in case I have to go to a later date. So there will be a Positive Choices celebration, but in the meantime, we will be running these webinars throughout the rest of the year until we can all physically be together. Neil, could I have my slides, please? Okay, so this is a collaboration. It's a collaboration between everybody that works in Positive Choices, and I'm absolutely delighted that Chris and Steve agreed to become part of the Positive Choices, Positive Commitments gang, mafia, whatever, for bringing us all together and ensuring that we stand up for what we believe in terms of the together we are better. And Chris has been the bravest of us all in agreeing that he will take on the facilitation of the webinars after we've had Neil's expert tutelage. As you all know, I'm a Luddite and it's not really my thing. I get a bit panicked. My first slide just sums up for all of us, for those of you who have never been to Positive Choices before. So for the first years that I've seen, the people that I've seen in the chat box who are saying hello and saying they're about to start their courses, which is absolutely amazing. for those of you in Guernsey, for those of you in Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, for those of you in Scotland, for in Wales, for in England, for in Spain, for Toronto, wherever you are all welcome to have your lunch, to learn and celebrate with all of us in this Big Ideas Club. I have put my email address on the bottom. Please feel free to email me. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter, but also use the Positive Choices Facebook page. There are a number of people who are waiting for me to accept them on the Facebook page. If you don't answer the questions for admittance, and if I can't get on your page to see who you are, then sorry, I automatically assume that you're selling Ray-Bans that are spelt wrong, and I don't admit you, so give me a clue. There's also on here, we've put along the side that there's no evolution without revolution. And that's what we are. We started off as a silent revolution. We are no longer a silent revolution. We stand up and we are counted. Next slide, please, Neil. So what's today all about? So today it really is the start of something we want to launch, something called Roots into Roots. And it was a debate whether I put the ROUTES at the bottom or whether I put it at the top. And I went for the bottom because the banner was wider for no other reason. So working with and for people with a learning disability is a partnership. It's a partnership that ensures that nobody gets left behind. And it's a partnership that ensures that all of us stay together. I've put some words along the side in terms of what I want us to think about. And it is most important at this current moment in time when we're in this third lockdown, which we are all struggling with. Every one of us is struggling, no matter how well organised that we think we are. That our practice has always been building independent. We take our practice where it's needed. We take our practice to the people, for the people, by the people. And in doing that, then we bring about co-production and we live our commitment. But to do that co-production, to live that commitment, for those of you who are registered nurses, some of you will have heard me say this before, for some of you it is new. We need to have a toolbox approach. And I'm going to take you through my metaphorical toolbox of learning disability nursing in a moment. But in terms of that toolbox, we need to remember that the toolbox is portable. So don't have a toolbox like my husband has that takes 4 hands to lift because it's got everybody in. And secondly, you need to ensure that you know what's in your toolbox and how to use it in order for you to make a positive choice. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want you to all imagine that you've got a toolkit, that whenever you started your course, or whether it's today that you're thinking about that toolkit, that we need to build nurses properly to meet the unique needs of people with a learning disability. So our toolbox needs to be portable so that we can take it where it's needed. It needs to be practical, so everything in it has to have multiple users. It has to be applicable, but you need to know when to use it and you need to know when not to use the tools. You need to know when the therapeutic use of self is the most important thing, but also you need to learn when it's about time to give that person a chance to be put down and walk themselves, rather than us try to take control all the time. We also need to remember that our toolkit has to be appropriate. And in terms of its appropriateness, we need to learn how to use it. So let's look what we've got in our toolkit. Next slide, please, Neil. Okay, so we've got a saw, and that helps us cut out the dead wood and reshape the surface, and also helps us to keep trim. We've got a screwdriver that tightens our foundations, and it enables us to shore up the service of today, but also build a firm base for the future. Sometimes to see the way forward, you've got to revisit the past and undo those screws. We've got a hammer to knock down the walls of prejudice, but also to nail down good practice and to build doors that open up opportunity. And in terms of that opening up opportunity, I want us to think about the phrase key worker. You know, it gets bandied around in health and social care. Key worker, key nurse, key person, key this. We need to make sure that we are not key turners and locking doors to opportunity, that we are key turners that open doors to opportunity. And finally, we've got a spanner that's not just for rotating the nuts, but more important, it helps us hold in place our professional ideas. And it turns around the image of our services and loosens the views of service policy makers. Sometimes that spanner helps us to represent and represent what we believe. So to get people to think that bit further. Last slide, please, Chris. Okay, so to live our commitment, I want you all to remember that you've got a voice, not an echo. And sometimes we repeat things that other people say, and that is important. You know, I'm forever chanting the mantra, together we are better. But you have got a voice, use it. You are not just an echo. So we have decided as a group that we will look at 4 pillars or 4 roots, as in roots that grow into the roots of our profession that will enable us to go on the road with our toolkit. The first one is living the commitment through the co-production agenda. The second relates, that's clever, Helen, I've just lost my screen. The second relates to living the commitment through the research agenda. Living the commitment through the lifestyle agenda. And in terms of the lifestyle, we need to remember that one of the key roles of learning disability nurses, alongside ensuring people get a life, not a service, is about being lifestyle facilitators. And then finally, it's about living the commitment through the practice agenda. Now, I have not ordered them in any way. They're just the way that they, you know, the thoughts flew from my brain to my keyboard. So each one is of equal importance. There's no ranking in those whatsoever. So I'm going to stop talking in a couple of minutes and hand over to Chris. I will look in the chat box. If anybody's got any questions, then please ask me. And don't be strangers. Thanks a lot, Neil. So Chris, it's over to you now, I think.
Thank you, Helen. Can I have my slides, please, Neil? So once again, my name is Chris Lamini, and as Helen has already preempted what we are all about today, I'm going to start expanding on the toolbox that Helen has provided us this morning, and I'm going to talk about each and every one of the fundamental tenets of positive choices. Next slide, please, Neil. So we've been trending on Twitter and Facebook under the hashtag LD Big Ideas for the last 3.5 months. And we're hoping that we'll be running these webinars on a 6-weekly basis, discussing and exploring each of the fundamental tenets of physical health, research, personalization, communication, and writing for publication. And at this point, it's worthwhile saying what a lovely time it is to be a registered nurse in learning disabilities, not just myself, but all my colleagues who are present here today. And what an even more fabulous opportunity to join learning disability nursing as a student nurse at the moment. and what a time it is to all start making positive contributions to our field. Next slide, please, Neil. So the first one that I'd like to talk about is physical health. Most of us will know from being students and from being lecturers as well as being nurses about the issues that face people with learning disabilities, mainly around mortality and morbidity. There are a lot of health inequalities when it comes to people with learning disabilities, starting from access to health, which then leads to high morbidity rates and then high mortality rates. And there's no point in coming every year to talk about how many people have died, how many people with learning disabilities are facing health inequalities every day. It is our job today as learning disability nurses, as well as student learning disability nurses, to start looking at physical health and how we can help meet the needs of people with a learning disability. So databases, there are many points of reference to look at. I've listed a few there, but at the moment it's interesting to look at the LEADER report. How many people are dying unfairly? How many people are dying disproportionately? People with a learning disability, and the figures are quite high. And lately, if you've been following Dr. Chris Hutton on Twitter, he's been giving us weekly or daily updates around how COVID-19 is impacting on the lives of people with a learning disability. So the onus is now on us as researchers, as lecturers, as academics, as student nurses and nurses of the future, to start thinking about how we can start bringing down the physical health criteria for people with learning disabilities. It will never be equal, but our role is to start thinking about how we can start reducing this health inequality around physical health. Next slide, please, Neil. The next one is research. There's a lot of research that's been done by academics. There's a lot of research that's been done by student nurses on a personal level for their service improvement projects in third year, of course. But there's been a rising trend at the moment around doing research with people with a learning disability. There's been very few instances of research that's been cited at the moment. So I've just spoken about COVID-19 at the moment, and just thinking how many of us have actually thought about meeting with and speaking to people with a learning disability around their experiences of COVID-19, and how that research can then be used to inform other people, other professionals in health and social care around meeting the needs of people with a learning disability. There are, of course, some methodological issues around working with people with a learning disability, issues like recruiting the right people to fit the sample in which you want to work, but also ethical issues around consent. People want to remain anonymous sometimes. How do we respect that right? How do we listen to their voices when they tell us about the care that they are receiving? But also, where do we draw the line? Because sometimes it's quite blurred. Are we working there as clinicians and researchers and student nurses? And our emotions, where do they go? Do they go on the research side in terms of informing practice, or do they go on our clinical nursing side? So everyone is welcome to do any research. So as part of this agenda, we're looking at inviting people to come and present their research ideas, be it academics, be it nurses, be it student nurses, or it could be a joint project, people wanting to work together around ideas. I've just put cancer, end of life, epilepsy. COVID-19 is another one that we should be seriously looking at the moment, and looking at statistics, the impact of these conditions on people with a learning disability, and how that research could then be used to inform practice. Next slide, please. Co-production. Helen has already touched on co-production, and Steve in a minute will also start talking about co-production, but I just want to introduce it briefly around why it's so important, co-production of knowledge. Co, as it suggests, it's about doing things together. So it's between nurses, it's between students, it's between people with a learning disability, it's between services, people coming together to generate knowledge, to exchange knowledge, and also to improve service service production and service development. So Steve will get the ball rolling today around co-production, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. Next slide, please, Neil. Personalization, I have put this separately, but personalization itself will go very nicely with co-production, which I've just looked at. It is about 15 years old now, this term has been knocking about, but it's been loosely translated by different people, either by government departments, by health and social care, in order to meet their own standards of care that they can provide for people. But Leadbeater argued that public services required less standardization and more flexibility in order to provide greater engagement for people with learning disabilities. And some of us will know about direct payments, they will know about individual budgets, which have already been introduced as markers in terms of starting to get the whole personalization agenda going. So it's been adopted by central government to describe a whole range, of its own policy around what personalization means. But what does personalization mean for us in learning disability nursing? How can we tailor this term to ensure that we personalize services based on the needs of the people that we work with on a daily basis, not the standard and umbrella terms that are used? Otherwise, we make everyone look the same. So how can we personalize the care for the people that we work with? So you could be interested in developing an idea or sharing that with your lecturer if you're a student, or sharing that with your practice if you're a nurse, or sharing this with your department if you're an academic. The field is all yours. It's open to you to start spreading the personalization agenda. Next slide, please, Neil. Communication. We talk about this every day in our seminars, in our lectures, classrooms, about the risks that communication poses for people with learning disabilities. You will know from research that most people with learning disabilities have got communication problems, and as a result, there are so many barriers to accessing healthcare as a result of communication problems itself. And therefore, we've come up with brilliant ideas such as reasonable adjustments, health passports, educational healthcare plans for younger people who are still in education. But what does communication mean for us now in the 21st century? We are here today, about 150, 200 people all together right now sharing information. How can we use social media? How can we use electronic media, social platforms to start spreading messages, research, and sharing ideas around improving communication for people with the learning disability? What does it mean for us as nurses of the future? For you students, another point to think about. Next slide, please, Neil. Finally, writing for publication. There are some third-year students who write service improvement dissertations or projects at the end of their third year, and they just finish there. They never go far. You're not just writing this for your academic team to mark and give you a mark and you go. This is sharing knowledge to benefit everyone in the learning disability nursing field. So bankers offer the challenge that all of us, professional nurses of the 21st century, have a mandate to be a nurse scholar. So it doesn't just start and end in your student years. It needs to continue way into your nursing career. If you decide to go into research, if you decide to go into academia, you have a mandate to make sure that you develop confidence and expertise in a specific subject area, and then write around this area and spread the message, share the knowledge right across our field. So what will your contribution be to the knowledge base of our learning disability field? Make sure that you leave your own footprint instead of just thinking ideas and keeping them through. It's good for us to think about what ideas have I got and how can I share it via publication. Your lecturers and other editorial teams and magazines and press will help you if you'd like to share any further information around publication. I think we will have another presentation on writing for publication in the following webinars. And the final slide, please, Neil. So the final thoughts. we have developed these webinars. They are for you. They are for you, student nurses. You have to own. You have to own this. Positive Choices as a platform is around enhancing your journey, making sure that your training is fruitful, it's productive. And like Helen said, you should have a voice, not be an echo. So be bold, be brave, be resolute. The 6 C's, think about them. The future of nursing lies in your hand. You are the future, and we're counting on you to shine the light into the future of learning disability nursing. People with learning disabilities are counting on you. No, don't sit and rest on your knowledge and expertise. And we're here to support you achieve your goals towards achieving anything that you like in learning disability nursing. So here's to the future, my friends. Long may learning disability nursing grow. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it me now, Neil?
That's right. Handing over to the amazing Steve Harding, who is now trending on TikTok, but we'll talk about that later.
Cool. Right. Okay. So, hola or hi, everybody, depending where I'm feeling Spanish or Danish today. Let's pick Danish, hi. So, I'm going to talk about service user involvement, an old term, to co-production, or does it come naturally? This presentation is by Peter Cronin, who I'm going to telephone in about 10 minutes. Fingers crossed he will answer the phone. I've already tried him twice today and he said yes, and he answered the phone. So he will be here. ResearchNet, they're going to give a 15-minute interview at the end of this talk. So I'm really looking forward to what they're going to say. And a presentation by the Can You Understand It team. And myself. So next slide, please. Yeah, so part of this presentation is by Peter Cronin. He's on the left-hand side, the handsome young man. He's a self-advocate from Lewisham Speaking Up. He's also the representative for employment in Lewisham. And that picture is actually from Positive Choices in Birmingham, I believe. It was 2019. Positive Choices. Okay, and then that's me, or half of me anyway, with a bald head. I'm a practice development nurse at Oxley's NHS Foundation Trust. Next slide, please. So what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to talk about what is co-production, how you should do co-production, examples from Peter and Steve, that's me, the Can You Understand It team, and then, as I said, I'm really looking forward to this, an interview with ResearchNet for the last 15 minutes. Okay, so, I mean, I actually believe that co-production comes naturally, okay? I started working in this field when I was 18 or 19, working in a supported living house run by the NHS. This was 1989, and I was a key worker to a man called Barry. Now, it just came naturally to me because I just asked the whole team, well, can he not attend his own care reviews? And they looked at me like I was going mad, but they didn't have any answer to come back to me because it's about him, it's his care review. So I won that argument. Then I asked if he can attend the house meetings. Well, that was a step too far for everyone in 1989. They said no. But co-production is a mindset. It's about how you feel, what your feelings are. And it's something that comes naturally to doing co-production or true co-production. Next slide, please. So this is the really not written by me, but by a researcher. Co-production is not just a word. It's not just a concept. It's a meeting of minds coming together to find a shared solution. In practice, it involves people who use services being consulted, included, and working together from the start to the end of any project that affects them. So I believe that, I'm sorry to say this, but if you actually look at the theories of co-production in the research world, not the learning disability research world, but the wider world, they're a bit elitist when it comes to co-production, because they give you loads and loads of, you must do these if you're going to call yourself co-production, and you can't do this if you're going to call yourself co-production. But I believe it's a wider concept that comes to everybody. And I will address this a bit later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So this is the co-production ladder. It's quite a famous ladder. So at the bottom, doing to. So educating, I don't like the word coercion, but anyone, if you're a student nurse, you might watch out for people doing mental capacity assessments. The very, very minute people who will do this, but it's quite easily done, coercing people to make decisions. So it's quite easily done, and we need to avoid that as much as possible. Educating people, sitting down, being taught. Then the next level is doing for. So engagement, consultation, informing. Yeah, so that's the main level that most services are at the moment. And the top level is co-production or co-design, doing it with people in an equal, reciprocal partnership. That's what really co-production is. It doesn't matter if you read about all of the theories of co-production by the NHS, the universities, social care, SCAI, yeah, because they don't live in the real world. This is the real world, and we can do what we can do best. Okay, next slide, please. So, what is co-production? So, equality. Okay, no one is more important than anybody else. Everyone has something to contribute. Diversity in co-production approaches. It's important to be proactive, to tackle unrepresented and excluded populations. Access. So ensuring that everyone can take part equally and participate fully. Accessibility might be physical, but it could also be about the way of working with the person. Everyone should have equal access to information. Reciprocal. So, professionals or paid staff are rewarded for their input. Yeah, when co-production, people who use services are equal partners with professionals, so they can also get some sort of reward. Everyone should get something out for putting something in, building on a desire to feel needed and valued. Something, this could be payment or a gift, or a payment in kind or an exchange. Next slide, please. Okay. So I touched on this earlier, but co-production. If you're going to talk about co-production, I strongly ask you to avoid searching the internet or research about it, because there is a lot of elitism, you know, people thinking they're elite above everyone else, because, you know, researchers often research about, you know, what is good about pro-production, you know, what it does, but they're only dealing with it with a limited time. So, and then they move on to the next project. But, you know, they forget about the person, the human involved in it. And co-production can't only occur from national level, but it could also occur from our personal level and on an individual level. Next slide, please. Okay, so on the top is national. So NHS England, I'll give you that example in a minute. Then it goes down to regional, who often employ people with learning disabilities at different grades or bands, etc. Then it comes down to trusts. So NHS Trust, where I work, I mean, I'll put my hands up. We actually employ people on a, well, a band 2, I believe, and everyone else, yeah. And then services, again, we employ everyone by a band 2. But then groups and individuals, this is where I believe it really happens. In groups like ResearchNet, Can You Understand It team, they receive payment, etc. But, you know, they're treated as equal partners. They're listened to. We act on what they're saying, and then we make a plan together. And then on an individual basis, like yourselves, you know, so co-production, the principles of it, you can do this on writing a care plan with somebody, and actually with somebody, you know, coming to a joint plan, a joint goal. It's really helpful, and it's really rewarding for us as individuals, but also for the person themselves. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a picture, hopefully you all know who he is. It's Oliver McGowan. Unfortunately, I'm going to get the date wrong. He sadly passed away November the 12th or the 11th in 2017 or 18. Yeah, well, it's a really sad situation. But, however, next slide. This led to his mother, Paula. She's a lovely, lovely lady, joining with me at the Nursing Times Awards. So she actually led a campaign, absolutely unbelievable how she did this, but she did it. So NHS Improvement, this is a department of NHS England. She campaigned for it endlessly. But she came up with the idea of the Oliver McGowan mandatory training. So you may have heard of this. This is where every health and NHS and social care staff will receive mandatory training about people with learning disabilities. And this will be at different levels. So, you know, for example, a laboratory participant who doesn't ever contact people, they might just do a e-learning for 20 minutes. But then people who are going to, you know, going to meet people face to face, especially doctors and nurses, they'll have to do perhaps a half day or a whole day training about it, and they have to be repeated every so often. So this is what I call true production, because it's career-led. It's not only about not forgetting the people with learning disabilities, but also remembering the people who care for them, their families. So they're partners from the very start. So this is what I really, really found amazing. So at NHS England, in NHS Improvement, they have a senior learning disability advisor, and they are actually paid full-time on an 8A. I've never heard of this before. Now, Perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a unique situation. That's quite a lot of money paying somebody, anybody, no, not with a learning disability or not. And then the last one is 50-50 decision making. So this is when they hold interviews. So whether they hold interviews individually, separately or together, they all hold a 50-50 decision making. So it's up to the people with learning disabilities as well as the managers. Next slide, please. Okay, so, you know, basically, even the smallest partnership can make massive differences to the lives of people with learning disabilities. Okay, you know, because everybody, you know, you can easily make a difference. So just think about what you're doing, about how you can work with the person with learning disabilities. Yeah, it's really easy to do. I'm trying really desperately to get in contact with Peter. He says he's engaged. Oh dear. Okay. I keep trying it, but I know his slides anyway. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I'm telephoning Peter right now and he's engaged. Okay. Next slide, please. Right. So what I asked Peter this already. So what does he understand by the term co-production? So we've known each other since 1999. I believe it's an equal partnership. We're equal partners. We worked together when I was at South London Maudsley until 2013. So up until then, yeah, he was equally paid by South London Maudsley, but also we 50-50 decision making because we listened to each other, and also, you know, including his ideas, my ideas, etc. And basically, we didn't know we were doing co-production at the time. Okay, so he was being paid. So I believe he was paid £15 an hour by South London Maudsley. From 2013 to present, he's actually paid by me because he actually lives in Lewisham Borough and I actually work in Greenwich Borough. So I can't pay him from the Oxley's budget. So I pay him £15 an hour. We respect each other. We go out for lunch, dinners, etc. And I've met him once a week since April, I think. Yeah, so we did this via the internet and also via, you know, face-to-face, but in the local parks, etc. We also put these interviews online, you know, and he believes in equal opportunities for everyone. Okay, next slide, please. So Peter has written a book. Okay, hopefully you've all heard of this book. I'm really, really so proud of it. And so is Peter, if he was actually here. Okay, so it's called Friends. Peter and Friends talk about COVID-19 and having a learning disability and or autism. So these are the 6 editors. Well, Peter is the most important person. He's on the top level, halfway between the two. And a really good looking one is on the bottom left right-hand corner. Okay, so, you know, if anyone needs a copy, you can download it from my website, stevehardyldn.com. Okay, you can print it out, but be warned, it's about 430 pages and loads of colour pictures. But Peter will actually tell you it's a really rewarding project for us. I was contacting him via webs on April I can't remember the actual date, the 2nd or 3rd. And he actually discussed with me that he can't believe that he can't understand all the information about COVID because he can't read, he doesn't have an internet connection, etc. So he said, well, what else is happening to everyone else? Both light bulbs went off in both our heads, and we started to think, well, let's talk about what other experiences people have. And this expanded because it didn't actually happen just in England, Wales, Scotland or Northern Ireland. It involved people from Canada, various places in Asia like Malaysia, and loads of countries in South Africa and loads of countries in Europe. Yeah, so it was going really, really well. And then we published it within 6 months of actually coming up with the idea. And that's a really, really quick process to do. Okay, next slide, please. Writing chapters in books. So Peter has written loads of chapters, but his most favorite one is Who's Challenging Who? So we wrote this back in 2010, I believe. And some large research projects have come out after this, but we weren't involved, but they came up with the same term, Who's Challenging Who? But we copyrighted it. So he will tell you that in this chapter, he speaks about who challenges who. So the support workers, they're challenging us. The nurses, they're challenging us. So don't just talk about us having challenging behavior. It's about everyone else can have challenging behavior as well. Next slide, please. This video is on my website. Peter and we made a video back in, oh my God, 2010, I think. It's an educational video about the Mental Capacity Act. So I just asked him loads of questions about what he thinks about the Mental Capacity Act, how it affected him, how it affected his then wife, and what he thinks about the future for it, and how the Mental Capacity Act will hopefully have a great impact on his life. Also, we made loads of videos about mental health, challenging behavior, etc. Next slide, please. Completing CQC inspections. So we've both, as a joint team, audited 2 units, and this were 2 units back in a long time ago, and we don't work for them either now, and both of these units are shut down. So the first unit we went to, well, I can't say anything worse about it than I can. It was absolutely an awful place. First of all, they had no care plans. First of all, there was no co-production or service user involvement. Thirdly, they kept us waiting for 45 minutes, even though they knew we were coming. Plus, this is a really sad point that Peter will point out. As we walked in and they met us, we walked through the ward, someone had left feces on the floor. So that happens, it happens to everyone sometimes. So he reported it to the cleaner. So we walked around the rest of the ward, half an hour, we came back and it was still there. Plus, we also interviewed one person and we said to them, please, can it be someone that's on their way out? who's going to be discharged. We don't want to meet someone who's going to be absolutely psychotic. The first person they sent to us was a new patient who was admitted 2 days ago and was absolutely psychotic. I mean, I've had training in psychosis, but Peter actually recognised it ASAP. So we wrote the report and it was accepted. Plus, the commissioners did pre-CQC inspection, etc. And it was closed a week later. The next one, though, this one was really difficult to think about how they came with the report after this, because we actually, other than was one point of disappointing, it was we were talking to the head psychologist, and I can't remember, it was called he called psychogenesis or genetic or some kind of psychosis, and I'd never heard of it, and nor had Peter. He kept going on and on about it, and he knew that this was a person with a learning disability coming to interview him. But other than that, you know, we wrote loads of positive stories. They were playing a game of cricket in the garden. Someone was doing OT artwork. Someone was doing a reading class. You know, so it was really, really lovely place, even though people were there against their will. So we completed our report and we submitted it. However, the submitters, the people that took the reports, they only picked out the 1 point, and that was the issue of the psychologist using difficult language, and didn't mention anything else of the proactive stuff we said. Yeah. But however, about 2 months later, we sent a copy of just our report to the managers of the unit, because they need to be informed about what's going on. It really upset the managers, but, you know, well, we do what is right. Next slide, please. I'm going to try Peter now. One more time. Okay. All right, fingers crossed. It says he's busy again. I can't believe I only spoke to him about an hour ago. Anyway, so Peter was involved in a research project, a guided self-help for mental health problems, especially depression or anxiety. He was involved from the beginning to the end. And this was quite a lengthy project, about 1.5 years. So it went down from interviewing about 50 people. Then the second stage was interviewing 25, and then 10, and then coming up with the actual tool they were going to use. And then Peter, he went on a tour of UK with Christine from the Foundation for People with Learning Disabilities. Yeah, so if you were able to hear him and her talk, that was really great. Next slide, please. Peter's also written loads and loads of articles. He's written loads of articles for advances in mental health and intellectual disabilities, but also community living, community care, primary nursing, and many other journals like this. But he's mainly concentrated on mental health, risk assessment, and how it affected him personally, involving people with learning disabilities in research, training. It's under the concept or umbrella of co-production, but back when we wrote this, it was called service user involvement. Dementia, about his personal life, his wife, who was sadly deceased since then, she actually had Alzheimer's, and it was a really difficult time for him and everyone else who were supporting her and loving her, and challenging behaviour. Next slide, please. Speaking at conferences. Oh my God, it's working now. Peter?
Hello, Peter. Can I help you?
Hi, Peter. It's Steve.
Hello, Steve. How you doing, mate? Yeah, I'm busy today. I've just finished speaking to my teacher. It's a good day today, Steve.
Yeah. Right. So I'm just about the end of our speech at the conference online.
Yeah. Okay. I'm all ready, Steve. I'm all ready.
Okay.
I just got to put my tie on.
Okay. Speaking at conferences. Okay.
Yeah. Hang on. Yeah. Carry on.
So, what's your experience of speaking at conferences? You know, like we did it in Birmingham.
Yeah, that's right. It's a tape on now.
Yeah, you're on now. Yeah, you're live.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, guys. I want to say hello to everyone. All right. Happy New Year.
Cool.
Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all had a nice Christmas. Well, my experiences at conferences is very good because, like, if you get a good conference sort of thing, it's good to explain to people about learning disabilities because people with learning disabilities do suffer because people with learning disabilities get swept underneath the carpet a lot and people don't listen to their point of view. So it does take a lot to explain ourselves. And going to conferences, you can put your point of view across as well, and you can help other people as well and give people different opinions about learning disabilities.
Hey, cool. Thanks for that. So, do you remember talking at the Positive Choices in 2019 at the Birmingham University?
Yeah, it's very good, wasn't it, Steve? It's a good few years ago. It was good. I think that was a very good day, Steve.
Yeah, cool. Next slide, please. So, campaigning. So, Peter, you'll remember this.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the leader report about how people die earlier than everyone else?
Yeah, I know. That was really sad. What was that lady's name when the son died? He was young. Can't think of that lady's name
Oliver
now.
McGowan and also Connor Sparrowhawk.
And she spoke really well, and I feel sorry for the lady. And what it is, I think, my opinion is, a few other people talking the same things as well. My opinion is that things should be explained to people with learning disabilities more. Things ain't explained to us more. They keep us in the dark. They don't tell us what medication we're on. And people should listen and find out, are we allergic to anything? Are we allergic? Because when I took my girlfriend across the road the other day to get a flu jab, they asked me, was she allergic to penicillin, like I am? Some people are allergic to different tablets and things. So people should find out before they give medication out because it can be very dangerous for people with learning disabilities. Dangerous for everyone, but people with learning disabilities especially because people with learning disabilities don't always get a choice, which is wrong.
Yeah, cool. So we organised a petition, getting people to sign it. So we had 670 people signing the petition within 2 weeks.
That's a lot of people, Steve. That's good.
Yeah. So then,
very good.
Once we finished the 2 weeks for the petition, we sent it to the Minister of Health, who at the time was Jeremy Hunt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jeremy Hunt. Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah. Well, there's a bad video about him on my website. When he was actually asked about leader in Parliament, he actually creeped out, crawled out of Parliament on the floor.
That's the one. Funny thing, you must be a mind reader, Steve. You took the words right. Was that the one with back down? Got on the
that's
floor,
him.
Went out through the side door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he ignored us, but we wrote to the CEO of NHS England and the learning disability leader of NHS England, and they both replied to us. So they included us in the NHS long plan for people with learning disabilities, and we got to meet Ray James at the Elephant and Castle. We dressed up posh.
Yeah, Ray James.
Yeah, cool. Next slide, please. So, Peter, what do you think the main point of co-production is?
Co-production is us two working together, getting equal rights like me and you, Steve, having the same opportunities in life and doing the same things in life and being treated with equal rights. Me and you, Steve, being treated with equal rights. For old friends and friends together for life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And how long have we been friends?
Oh, a few years. How long? About
21.
It's about. Are you about about 21 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a
I
long
believe.
time, and it feels like yesterday. We're still buddies.
Hey, cool. And I asked you for ideas just before Christmas, so we're going to take your new ideas forward. Have you?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks very much. That's lovely, Steve. That's lovely.
Cool. So I've got a last slide. So trust is key to co-production. Do you believe in that?
Co-production.
Yeah, trust is the key.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, co-production is like working together as well, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, it's about trusting each other.
Yeah, it's working together and getting equal rights together, and being seen as equal, and being seen as not like person without a learning disability. He's got to learn this, but he ain't got to learn. I think everyone should be treated equal in jobs, and people should be given equal pay and equal rights and equal opportunities for everyone.
Oh, brilliant, Pete.
Yeah,
well,
equal opportunities.
We have to say goodbye now because I'm going to hand over to ResearchNet in a minute. So thank you ever so much for joining us.
Yes, but thank you very much, guys. And it's been lovely. And it's been lovely talking to you guys. And I can't wait to see each other face to face when all the virus is over.
Exactly. We do much better when we're face to face.
Yeah.
Cool. See you later.
Peter, it's Helen from Positive Choices. Thank you so much for doing this for us again. And we'll see you later in the year for a Positive Choices celebration.
Cool. Thank you, Helen. So next slide, please. Right, so I've run out of time, but you can read about this on my website. And also if we're going to publish the video from today, it's about the great, absolutely brilliant work of the Can You Understand It team. Basically, anything that is written for people with learning disabilities in Oxley's NHS Trust, this needs to go through the Can You Understand It team because they do absolutely amazing work. They read through it, if they understand it, if they need to make the writing shorter, using short sentences, what pictures work, what don't work, etc. So I'm going to hand over right now to the ResearchNet. It's this wonderful experience for me to introduce ResearchNet from the London Borough of Bromley. This is going to be led by Claire and Libby, and they're going to introduce their two members. So I'll hand over to them right now. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Libby. Well, we're going to put just our videos on the screen so that we could all see each other while we're talking. Would that be possible? Great, thank you. So Michael and Bertan, you've got your videos on. Louise, are you there? Are you able to put your video on? Brilliant. And then hopefully you all know how to turn your microphones on as well. Claire, I don't know if your video is working.
I'm here. Could my video come on, please? There we go. Thank you.
Great. So maybe if we all start by going around and saying our names and saying how long we've been members of ResearchNet for. So does anyone want to start?
Hello, my name is Bertan.
How long have you been part of ResearchNet?
I don't know how long I've been.
Were you there? Were you part of it before COVID?
Yeah.
So over a year?
Yeah, it was 27th of May, I can remember. I don't know what year it was.
So maybe 2019?
Maybe.
Great, thanks, Bertan. Michael or Louise, do you want to introduce yourself? You need to turn your microphone on.
Can you press the red microphone?
I'm I'm Louise, and I've also been part of ResearchNet for over a year as well.
Great, thanks, Louise. And Michael, are you able to turn your microphone off? Or I don't know if we're able.
If you tap the screen, can you see the red circle? And it has a line through it. You press it.
Yes, I've done it.
Yeah, well done.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you want to say your name and how long you've been part of ResearchNet?
Sorry. My name's Michael, and I've been on the ResearchNet for quite a long time. About 12 or 4 years. Not even years, really.
Thanks. And Claire?
Hello, everybody. My name's Claire. I work in Bromley Community Learning Disability team. I'm an occupational therapist and a member of ResearchNet.
And I'm Libby. I'm a trainee psychologist in the same team as Claire. I'm actually one of the newest members of ResearchNet, so I've only been here since October, but everyone's been very welcoming. So we're going to be asking some questions, and you guys can all chip in, or if one person wants to answer the question, that's fine. So who would like to tell everybody what is ResearchNet?
ResearchNet to help people learning special needs, kids. We go there every Wednesday, 1 o'clock to 2. And we do all different projects. ResearchNet in Oxley and Sidcup.
Great, thanks, Bertan. Michael, is there anything you'd like to add about what we do in ResearchNet?
Well, yes, what we do in ResearchNet is we do work to that prepare for the next meeting that we will have the following week, and like Paula would say, what have you tried? Remind us of what we said about is this what you said last week? And it's also, we make lovely tea. We take turns of doing it, and it's lovely. Really is.
That's right, Michael. We've all got different jobs in ResearchNet, haven't we? To try and make it a bit more equal. So what's your job in ResearchNet now?
My job in ResearchNet is to try to is to read out things that are that other people are struggling to read, and to encourage them to read it. That's on the put on the picture.
Yeah, so you help with reading out the minutes, don't you? So every week we meet up and you help write the minutes. And,
Yes.
and Louise, Louise, what's your job in research? What's your job in ResearchNet? Would you like to tell everybody?
Okay, my job is if the agenda needs to be made, like I've helped with one already. I helped Libby to help do the agenda, and also I sometimes give ideas for other people if they want to do jobs as well.
Great, thanks, Louise. I wonder if somebody could tell everyone about some of the projects that we've been doing recently.
We've done 2 newsletters for lockdown. Some people do drawings, some people take photos and send it to Libby and Claire and Paula email.
That's right. You've all contributed to the book that Steve was talking about earlier, and you've shared your experiences of lockdown, and you've shared all your lovely artwork in the book as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
What other projects have you done to help people with learning disabilities?
Talking to their friends.
Yeah, we did
not being lonely.
Yeah, that's right. We did a project about social isolation and loneliness, and you all contributed to the leaflet, and you spoke about some of the places that you go to, that you were suggesting for others to go to. And do you remember the leaflet we did recently about the internet? Would anybody like to talk about that? What were we trying to help people with?
We've been doing a online leaflet, and we've done, I think, most of it, if not all of it now, and everybody contributed to doing some of it, the staff and the members.
Thanks, Louise. And in ResearchNet, who makes all the decisions?
Paula.
Yes, and I was just going to say, and thank you for helping, Bertram. It's a team effort.
Oh, it's really good to hear you say that, Louise. I mean, I think that we work well as a team. I mean, what do we do when we disagree with each other? How do we come to a decision together?
If we don't disagree. What we do is how to avoid to work as a unit and to find out and not to break it down in so many words, that to find out what is the problem and fix it, and it's like a tool. If it breaks, you fix it, and it's just like that, really.
Thanks, Michael. I don't know how long we've got to talk for, but I thought a nice question to finish might be, what's the best part of ResearchNet for everybody? What's your favourite part of ResearchNet?
Oh, yeah, good question. I just love it, really. I love it. I love going to ResearchNet because I find meeting people and new people is one of because if you meet people that don't want to listen to what you're saying and they don't want to know and I don't want to be helped in any way and they just and they help you and I don't want to listen to you and you do the best you can and it's sort of sad in a way because you can't help them and it's just let them do their own thing. It you know
Thank you, Michael. What was the question again, Libby?
What's your best bit or your favourite bit about ResearchNet? Bertan?
Missing coming to research every Wednesday. We on the 18th of March we stopped going to research, missing all my friends, and all the staff is very nice, helping special needs like us.
So you miss coming to meeting live, face to face?
We had a big task on our hands, didn't we? Getting everybody online, and we should probably say there's more of us. There's probably about 10 of us in total in ResearchNet. And we've got 2 members that haven't been able to get online, and we're trying to get tablets to them so that they can join. And we also have different staff in the community team join, don't we? But we've all done so well to get online because it hasn't been easy, has it? We've all had to learn a new skill.
Yeah.
Louise, what's your favourite part of ResearchNet?
My favourite part of ResearchNet is similar to Michael's because it's like meeting new people, like meeting new staff at times because and even if they're not staff, like we met someone called Dr. Lily online recently and she was quite informative as well, and meeting new like clients as well, whether they come to the group and like we're not doing the group like going in at the moment. So if new people come online and even if they're not new, they're existing, it's meeting those people as well. So like meeting everybody really, that's good as well. And even if they can't come on at the time or they don't come in anymore, it's been meeting them.
Thank you, Louise. Yeah, I mean, we're very lucky. We've had quite a few colleagues come in and ask for ResearchNet's help. So Dr. Lily, who Louise just mentioned, they're doing a project on creating a leaflet to explain what genetic blood testing is. And so we've had a few staff members come in and ask ResearchNet their opinion on some of the leaflets and things that are going out to our service users. And that's also what the Can You Understand It team gets involved with as well. Were you going to say something, Michael?
No. Well, it's, I mean, like I said, it's, I mean, we did something in Bromley. We did something in Bromley, didn't we?
We've done lots of things in Bromley. What project are you thinking about?
We did a, I think it was you and, was it Paula and Dave that went to help speaking in Bromley, and handing out leaflets.
Is that when you went to the shopping centre and you were trying to educate shop staff how to treat people, how to speak to people with learning disabilities?
Yeah, because I sat in a meeting and brought it up, and I thought, yeah, you know, it's good to talk to people in Bromley, see how they what they want in Bromley, and they can talk to us, and we could probably or you can't just drop a wave a magic wand and sort of if they say, oh, we want public transport, can you stop a bus and get us on for free with a wheelchair? And you can't just wave a wand and do that. But there must be a way of doing things without sort of without doing something that you can't do. I mean, I feel now that I think it was Chris that said something to lockdown, and you feel helpless because you can't do anything for the people in wheelchairs, although they got carers to lift them on, to wheel them on.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really sorry. We might have to stop there because we're coming to the end of the conference. But you've obviously been listening very carefully to what else has been said today, and it's really great that you're so interested in it and sharing your ideas.
Michael,
thank you.
We wish we had a magic wand that we could let you talk a bit longer because everybody's fascinated. And I think there's a question for all of you in the question and answer box. Is that right, Neil?
There's a couple of questions actually, and I think that we've got time for them. We've got so fab to see a service which is led by an LD community. Can I ask what age range you cater for?
Does anyone know what age people need to be to come to ResearchNet?
Any age.
Any age. I don't think it matters really what age you have to be. You have to go through don't know what you have to go through now.
You're all volunteers for the trust, aren't you? So you had to do DBS check.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we've got another question. Who decides what projects you work on within ResearchNet?
That's Paula and Claire and Libby do all the projects for us.
I don't know if I disagree with. I think I disagree with that, Bertan. Who comes up with all of the ideas for the project?
I think it's a team effort really, because it's between staff and also sometimes the members get a chance to get a say as well. So I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just adding a bit more onto what Bertram said.
Thank you. And finally, just one more question, because I think we can squeeze it in. Would just like to know how everyone involved heard about ResearchNet?
We heard ResearchNet from other people that we got to know, and from a lady called Kirsty, and that I got that everybody got to know, and she mentioned the word that she mentioned it. So I said, "Oh, the first meeting that I went to was oh, I've forgotten that. The first meeting was the first, and then it carried on from there."
I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a shame Paul is not here, but I think everybody that's got involved in ResearchNet has at some point used our services, and so they've got involved with ResearchNet that way. And as a staff member, it kind of every discipline is encouraged to get involved. So we ask the nurses, the speech and language therapists, the physios, the OTs, the psychologists. So it's a big partnership between everybody.
Thank you.
I heard about it from the learning disabilities team at Oxley.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. That is all the questions we've got time for. So I'd like to ask Helen to come on board to give a few closing words. There's lots of fantastic comments in the chat box. Everyone's really enjoyed it. So much valuable, meaningful co-production in the real world. Well done. What a rich and varied seminar it's been. Helen, I'll hand over to you for closing words. Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
you're on mute, Helen.
That's clever, isn't it? So the University of Nottingham students who are on the call are now laughing because they know that I'm forever on mute and spend the time having to unmute me. I really don't quite know how to follow that because it has been the most amazing, enriching Wednesday lunchtime I think I've spent in many a day's travel. We've just done the most amazing job for all of us. I love your wallpaper, Michael, as well. I think that's phenomenal. There's an echo. Is that me that's the echo?
Helen, I would just like to say from what I caught, I have been taking down some notes as well, and I found it very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. You're very welcome, and the stuff that you've done for us is great. So, to participants in the room, we're going to try and do this every 4 to 6 weeks. Chris, Steve, and I'll put our heads together in the next few weeks, and get an invite out to you. I don't know why I've got an echo, Neil.
I've just muted everyone, so it won't happen anymore.
All right, okay. So we'll get another invite out to you. A big shout out for Neil because he's going to say, oh, there's no need, Helen, there's this, that, and the other. Neil has been amazing, from us having this little germ of an idea to talking us through to holding our hands, and he's going to hate me when I say this. We wanted to buy Neil something as a gift to say thank you very much for helping us, but he wouldn't accept that. So in Neil's name, we have sent money to the Feed the Children campaigns locally to us, and specifically to buy treats, not just staples like beans and bread, because no child should never have a life without a treat of some description. So that's gone in your name, Neil, with our grateful thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. Look forward to seeing you next time. I'll put all the presentations up on the Positive Choices website. How are people going to be able to access this recording again, Neil, please?
I will share the link with you afterwards, which you are then welcome to download and share, and we can talk through that afterwards.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. That's great.
Will the link be emailed?
Yeah, Louise, that's not a problem. We'll sort that out. We'll send it to ResearchNet so that you can all access it, because I haven't got everybody's emails. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you for saying so, Helen.
No, you're very welcome. There's been lots of lovely tweets going round and linking people up. Sean Ledington, if you're still on here, I really think you need to get Dudley Voices to come on and do some stuff for us. Zola, the new student to be from Mongolia, the lady that I talked to you about in the chat, she's already tweeting back saying she wants to get in touch with you and share her story and be involved in anything that you're doing. Absolutely brilliant. In terms of some of the questions that people have asked in relation to research and people with a learning disability, I'll put also on the Positive Choices page with the download a link to some research from by Richard Hastings from the University of Warwickshire, which is one of the best pieces of involving people with a learning disability in research that I've seen for a long time, which is about people with Down syndrome's views on NIPT testing. And earlier in the call, we had the woman that students often describe to us as the academic that makes research sexy, i.e. Ruth Northway. We'll ask Ruth to do some more stuff with your research. And Paula hopes, if you're still on the conversation, we'll ask you to come in as well. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. That's me done. Over and out. Mic drop.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.